Joins us now via Zoom. Doc, thank you very much for your time and welcome to All Angles. So firstly, just in layman's terms and so that we understand, what is the science between what is called groundwater?
Yes, thanks, Masego, and afternoon to the viewers. So groundwater is water that we, in layman's term, find under our feet. So it's underground. But it is that portion of the underground that is fully saturated. So if you think about pore spaces and you think about the fractures in the subsurface, and it is fully saturated with water, that is the aquifers in which it finds itself, and that is that abstractable portion from this aquifer that we would commonly call groundwater. So as you also move from the surface until you get to what we would commonly call the water table, and a lot of people would have heard about the water table. So that's the unsaturated zone. So that's the zone that's not filled with water completely. And below the water table, this is where we get our groundwater resources from.
And those groundwater resources, how do they in turn assist us with the quality of our water? Does it assist at all?
In terms of the water quality, so it is being used as a water supply option for domestic use, agricultural and industrial. But like any water that we use for consumption, it needs to be treated. But it's also a water source that, if there are no activities that might pollute it or contaminate it, can be used in an untreated way. And of course, for health reasons, we often disinfect using chlorine or UV filters, etc. But it's not a blanket statement, and of course we need to assess where it is and how it's been managed and how it's been protected from pollution.
All right. Now, the mining industry, and I was asking this question previously, has always been a culprit in terms of polluting our water, etc. But it seems like are we doing enough to make sure that they play their part? I know there are sanctions against them. There's punishment that government has, etc. But it doesn't seem like it's stopping that industry from further contaminating our water.
I would not say often that all of them are bad, but in certain cases there are contamination, and it's also not fair to single out mining, and any activities that have some sort of polluting potential at the surface will cause pollution of our aquifers. But mining in particular, because to mine deep, you also have to abstract some of the water, in which we know now most of it would be groundwater. And then this again creates conditions, for example, what we call acid mine drainage, or the waters of high contents of certain heavy metals. It has a lower pH, etc. And again, if we discharge that back into the environment without treating it, it does become a problem. But there's been a lot of work done in that regard to arrest that type of situations.
Doc, what has been the impact of COVID-19 in terms of compliance, especially because it seems to me, at least, that COVID-19 stressed even further the fact that the quality of our water is deteriorating, and it stressed even further the problems that were already existing in South Africa when it comes to water and sanitation.
Yeah, and a particular case for groundwater, because institutionally we are not well set up to manage our ground water resources. So if you think of all the municipalities, I can probably count on one hand the municipalities that do make use of groundwater expertise or professionals in their employ. And again, things like COVID just put that spotlight on those issues that's already there. But certainly with all travel and logistical restrictions, I think it's normal that one can find some of these things not being regulated or policed and in certain aspects. But for sure, when it hits the drinking water treatment plants, there's always the best practice. And I think we should not be worried about the water that comes out of our taps.
So some of the stores that we visit, your Pick and Pay, etc., they sell these jugs that, say that they are going to decontaminate our water. Does this work? Would you advise South Africans to get those? Of course, this is for people who can afford. So once again, there's that disparity between the rich and the poor, etc.
Yeah, and this is a grey area. We've done some work at the WRC some time ago around these filters and they and whether they work or not. And in the main, they might work. But the problem is if you don't maintain, as with anything else, these filters do clog up and they do become the place where the stuff that you're trying to keep out stays in. And over time, of course, it builds up. And you just need a change in your water chemistry to release it, or you might have a physical break in the filter, and without you knowing it. So there is some caution, and of course, in most of these cases where one cannot access tertiary treatment of tertiary treated drinking water, one needs to take precautions to treat your water. To ensure that it's your safety. But it's important for consumers to make themselves aware of what they buy and whether these claims that's often on these jugs that you call or filters are backed up by science.
All right. Thank you very much for your time here on All Angle. That was, of course, Dr. Shafick Adams from the Water Research Commission.